So we have a couple final little things I'd like to say. I think the first thing I just want to note is to thank actually all of our sponsors that we've had covering the event for us. These are people that we've partnered with many years going in past. There's quite a few very familiar logos. I was about to say faces, but I guess it's logos up there. We've had people like Bentley Systems involved from the very beginning of the event. You guys are all very familiar with them in terms if you've been coming to the event for years and the work that they've been doing, and they've been an incredible partner of ours. UCL, of course, as our host for the event. People like 3D Print and Algol and EOS and Z-Mapping specifically helped what we did in this particular event that we have going on over at Waite's House. And what I'd like to do is actually bring up Brady Peters for just a moment to show one or two quick items related to some history of these exhibitions, some history of the work that we've done over the last 10 years. So actually, bring over Brady Peters, who's going to talk just a little bit about the Inside Smart Geometry book that we've got for sale out there, and then we'll move on to the exhibition.
How long, Shane?
2 minutes. I don't know.
2 minutes. All right.
What do you think? You go for it.
Okay. So I've been told that I've got 2 minutes. This was originally scheduled for 15, so. Right. I'm one of the editors of the Smart Geometry book, and my wife, Terry Peters, is one of the other editors. And I've been involved with Smart Geometry since 2003, I think, one of the very first Smart Geometry conferences. I've only missed one. I've been a tutor at pretty much every conference. I've led clusters. I've organized the conference itself. Terry, my wife, has written extensively not only about the Smart Geometry Conference, but also about many of its members. So we felt that we were sort of relatively well placed to offer a view inside Smart Geometry. First, I think this book is a celebration. It's a celebration of 10 really great years, a huge amount of work by a really great amount of people. So these are the 10 events, or what we consider to be the 10 events of Smart Geometry. And they've taken place in various locations around the world, largely sort of going from North America to Europe. And so that we've had all these 10 events, hundreds and hundreds of participants. Every year, about 150 people participate in the workshops, and hundreds more come to the conferences. So there was a huge amount of sort of this intense focused work that Terry and I thought, after 10 years, maybe we should discuss it and you know, put something out there that we can talk about. The book also maps a thematic shift in Smart Geometry, which probably Shane has talked about, from a sort of a more single software platform to a multi-platform fabrication interaction-based conference and organization. So, for example, at 2006, participants worked largely individually, experimented with computation and algorithmic form, all based around the architectural design problem, though. By 2011, in Copenhagen, people were working together in groups with I think, the ability to create variable form largely taken for granted by this point. And so they were looking to engage with things outside of that, which is why they've sort of gone to digital fabrication and responsive interactive technologies and big data and things like this. So we understand that there's like no way to capture 10 years of all this work. But we tried to do is capture some of the key concepts and key ideas that we felt had developed with Smart Geometry. So what we hoped is that this diverse collection of texts would capture some of the history, the philosophy, the technical accomplishments, and also serve as a bit of maybe a window into some future trends for Smart Geometry. I think, like Shane mentioned, we imagined that this book would act as a retroactive manifesto for the group, just through the mere fact that it was this collection of essays by all these people from Smart Geometry. It was a book that was done actually independently from the organization. We wanted it to be a book about Smart Geometry, not by Smart Geometry. we thought that it would be stronger if it was done this way. But that being said, the project was carried out with the generous support not only from Wiley, our publishers, but also the Smart Geometry organization, particularly the directors, but also Bentley Systems, who have been a really generous and critical member of the Smart Geometry community since the very beginning. So, this is where I go into the lecture. I'm not sure if we got there. But, right. Should we keep going? So why geometry? In 2003, I attended the first Smart Geometry Conference. And I saw a lecture by Hugh Whitehead in which he described some of the parametric and computational tools that he was doing. And I was working at Bureau Happold at the time, making physical models and using digital to extend this, but I was really looking for a new method. And when Hugh gave his presentation, a light really came on. And I was determined to sort of continue my engagement, not only with Smart Geometry, but I was also fortunate to join Hugh in the specialist modeling group at Foster & Partners. So why geometry? Why does this book need to go inside Smart Geometry? As the founders explained in their chapter, Smart Geometry was founded as a rejection of the conservative influences that promoted computer-aided design as the simplistic organization of building components. In order to be free of these predefined tools and have a higher discussion of building design, this meant that geometry needed to be explored and discussed. This geometric approach allowed designers to explore conceptual designs and create their own custom objects, rather than using the predefined objects provided by their CAD software, thus create Smart Geometry. However, we feel that Smart Geometry is not solely concerned either with form making or with software. And I think that this book shows that one of the central ideas to Smart Geometry is the creation and application of digital tools and technologies for the purposes of design. In his chapter, Robert H. explains that before we design, first we must build our tools. Robert's work was critical to the early success of Smart Geometry, and the software he was developing, which was called GenerativeComponents, captured the geometric and algorithmic design approaches that were being developed by the community at this yearly event. Robert goes on in his chapter to detail how GenerativeComponents relates to not only the ideas that were coming out of the Smart Geometry group at the time, but also from a legacy of computational thinkers such as Eben Sutherland and Christopher Alexander. As Smart Geometry provides close contact with forward-thinking design firms and academics, the event is an opportunity to develop design software as part of this intense design sessions, what Volker Müller and Mackay Smith call situated software development. Bentley Systems has been part of every event, and as Volker and Mackay explained, one of the reasons is because Smart Geometry attracts attendees from many disciplines, and it gives feedback about software usability beyond discipline-specific boundaries. They explain how beneficial the strategy of situated software development has been. They give this example. Smart Geometry 2008 was recorded more than 100 people using GC simultaneously for 4 days. This amounts to nearly 2 years of work. This is an unparalleled opportunity to spot trends and form a cohesive picture about what is important to users' projects. But Smart Geometry is more than just the creation of revolutionary design software. It's about designers creating their own computational tools with this software. Shown here is a project by Neil Katz from SOM, which he discusses in his chapter. This project was done at quite an early Smart Geometry event and illustrates that the designer is no longer directly modeling the building, but instead, through design computation, setting up a series of geometric relationships and/or writing a script that generates the building. So not only should there be a flexible design platform on which designers can work, before we design, first we must build our tools, but for designers, as we design, we must be able to evolve our tools with us. In his foreword to the book, Brett Steele reminds us of Herbert Simon's proclamation that the modern architect is the maker of instructions. And this making of instructions is very clear at every Smart Geometry event. At Smart Geometry, designers are involved with the creation of algorithms and tools that generate designs. They are, in a sense, meta-designing, as in, that is, designing mechanisms that generate the design. In his chapter, Fabian Schur, an early Smart Geometry attendee, computer scientist, and founder of the Design to Production consultancy, explains that algorithms are both a description of the problem and the solution. He argues that design is all about decisions, and that delegating decisions to an algorithm always means following predefined paths. And so he argues the use of existing tools leads to existing solutions. It is only through the creation of new tools that new ways of thinking and new solutions can be found. Illustrated here are two projects that are featured in my chapter on the design of complex surfaces that modify acoustic performance. In these two experiments, I think Mark Burry talked about one of these earlier today, we linked geometry generation to existing simulation tools. In the second experiment, we actually developed new simulation tools to inform the parametric model. But I think importantly, what these experiments show is that through the adoption of simulation, the creation of linked design tools, the abilities of the architect are extended. The architect is better able to predict the performance and experience of the design. In 2010, Flora Shemek and Hugo ran a workshop that introduced the concepts of interaction and physical-digital connections to smart geometry. No one really expected what the result of this would be. They were sort of upstairs in a room, sort of hidden from the rest of us, but at the end of it, they had these amazing results. And we were just all amazed that they were able to hook this up. And this has had a huge impact on the successive smart geometry workshops. So 3 chapters in the book focus on this interactive technology. There's some chapters on digital fabrication by authors such as Tobias Bontwich from ETH and Martin Bechtold from Harvard, who argue in their chapters that the experiments in digital fabrication are of critical importance, as computational design linked to computational manufacturing is redefining the discipline, and this is therefore a crucial area of research. So if it's commonly accepted wisdom that the computer is ubiquitous in architecture, do we really need to talk about computation? And I think what emerges in this book is that we do. Computation is not what architecture is, but if architecture is a practice that is concerned with technique, then computation is intricately connected to designing for meaning and experience in architecture. Of course, the mere fact of using a particular computational technique does not guarantee good architecture, the same way that using the same pen as Norman Foster doesn't guarantee a good design. But why shouldn't we be sharing techniques and tools? In looking at all the work that we've done for this book, I would say that smart geometry is more about the social structure than about the technology. It is about sharing knowledge and experiences and about the creation of knowledge. Smart geometry does is it creates a culture for design computation. It is both a network and event, part research and part practice. Smart geometry is an intense collaborative design environment. It's only 4 days. And in this 4 days, perhaps not all of the research questions may be answered, but participants and leaders construct a line of thinking that can be investigated intelligently and discussed through experimentation. So this book, Inside Smart Geometry, attempts to give an overview of a very diverse group of people, concepts, and technologies. The book, through its selection of texts, brings meaning and draws conclusions from many years of amazing work. So happy 10th anniversary to Smart Geometry. I think now we can go have a drink. Thank you very much.